Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Lynn and I'm super excited to introduce to you Easy Wonder die number 2 plus its add-on. So we are a little bit ahead of the game on this one where the add-on is coming out right alongside the Easy Wonder die. That way you can pick them both up at the same time and have everything that you need to craft with and make some amazing cards. So the Easy Wonder die number 2, very similar to number 1, was originally inspired by an exclusive mini one-sheet wonder that I taught at a summit. And so I have the 4 suggested card sketch layouts that you can create from all of the pieces that cut using the Easy Wonder die. And if you're not familiar with my line of Easy Wonder dies, the whole concept of it is that similar to a one-sheet wonder, where in my mini one-sheet wonder I show you how to cut a single sheet of 6x6 pattern paper and then turn it into those 4 sketches, this single die plate will actually in one fell swoop cut out all of the pieces that you need. It's been designed to fit through your 6-inch die cutting machine and make it a little bit easier to line up on your 6x6 pattern papers because it's just a smidge smaller than 6x6. Now, if you got the Easy Wonder die number 1 and you had any difficulties with getting it to cut cleanly, at the end of this video, sort of like the last half of this video, I have some tips and tricks for how to successfully get this to cut through your 6-inch manual die cutting machine. I'll be using the Bureaucraft. And if you already saw it from the first look at Easy Wonder die number 1, it's the exact same footage. I like to include it just in case there are new people to the Easy Wonder die, and that way you have all of the videos in one spot here. So that's a look at what it is in concept, but let me show you what this actually will cut out. So Easy Wonder die number 2 gives you these pieces. So similar to number 1, I have, instead of a square with a circle aperture cut through it, I have a rectangle with an oval aperture cut into it. It gives you this really nice frame where if you do mini albums, for example, this might be a really nice way to present some photos in a scrapbook layout, a mini album, or even just a card that you want to personalize. So you have that piece, you have the oval that falls out of it, and just like in die number 1, the stitched border detailing, it's on the inside of this oval cut, so that this piece has a stitch border detailing, but it's also on the outside of that oval cut. And that means that your frame also has that stitch border detail around the aperture opening. So it just makes it so that this frame can be used in multiple different ways. You can use it as a frame and it has all of the stitch details on all of the kind of the outside edges. Then we have a tall, skinny rectangular strip here. We've got some wedge pieces that are cut from here. You have this rectangle, which I think is an interesting way to get a couple different looks out of it. And I'm going to actually show you some different looks that you can create using just this piece alone, and as well the add-on piece that coordinates with it. But all of the letters that fall out that spell the word thanks, you can actually use those in the positive form here. And because they are individual and they aren't connected to each other, you could probably come up with other words that you can spell out, or possibly names that you can spell out using these letters. So that's also an option too. And then finally, we have this square here, which is kind of cute. It's got this extra detail in that stitched border where it's not just the regular stitches, but it actually has a stitched heart built into it. If you follow me on social media like Instagram or Facebook, where I post photos of just my personal projects, like not design team projects, my personal watermark has this little border. It's not stitched, but it has this border with this little heart swoop in the lower corner. So that's a little bit of a signature of mine, and I thought it would be really cute and something a little bit different to actually incorporate it into the die cut. I feel like it's these little details that really make your card just something a little bit extra. And even though the mini one sheet wonder that this was based on, you could cut these pieces by hand. If you had an oval die, you could cut this out too. But it's the stitch border detailing, the little heart that's stitched in. Those are the nice little touches that a die can give you that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do by hand. And as I mentioned, these are the suggested card sketches. Let me show you the, this was from the workshop that I taught, where I introduced the exclusive mini one sheet wonder that this die is based on. And so here's a quick look. Now, of course, in that mini one sheet wonder, I didn't have the word thanks to die cut into this because that's something that a die does very nicely for you. A little bit harder to do if you don't have the die for that. So that's why you don't see the word thanks cut into that. Then here's that second sketch. And again, these are the original, from the original hand cut mini one sheet wonder. And the papers that I've used and the ephemera that I used are actually from the Not Too Shabby virtual retreat that's coming up in September. So here's a little bit of inspiration for that upcoming retreat. If you get the retreat, then it'll come with these really lovely paper pad, and there's a plaid paper pad that you can get to go with it, and all of these really fun ephemera pieces. And in that retreat kit is also the Enjoy This Life word or sentiment die with its bubble layer or shadow layer, and that's also a piece that I designed also. So that's the original set of cards that this die was based on, and that's just a starting point so that your imagination has a place to start. Like if you're wondering how to use this, that gives you hopefully a good idea of what you can make. But if you look at all of these pieces, they're all basic shapes, some of them a little bit different to what you might otherwise see, but they are just building blocks. And once you have this die cut, you can then just kind of move them all around and use them however you'd like. Now, I'm not going to be crafting with the dies or making any cards, but I will show you some cards, and more specifically, I'll show you the cards that I teach you how to make if you want to pick up the optional classes that come with the Easy Wonder Die number 2 as an option. So when you go to pre-order this, you can also elect to get either just the intro class or the intro and the advanced class. In the intro class, I'll show you how to create those 4 card sketch layouts using the Easy Wonder die. And then in the advanced class, I'll show you how to use the add-on, both to create those sketches but give them a different look, and as well I'll show you how to use the add-on by itself to create some different looks. So speaking of the add-on, let's take a closer look at what that will cut out for you. So here we have 2 ovals. We have that wedge shape, a couple of hearts. I'll show you this up close in a moment. We also have the bubble layer or the shadow layer to the word thanks. We've got a skinny accent piece, or you can use this to die cut your small sentiments. And we have this, these 2 here, which I think are kind of really interesting. This one, in fact, is maybe my favorite die in this set. It just cuts out that stitch border, or stitch line, I should say, with that heart. with that swoopy heart. So I'll show you that up close in a moment. And then this piece here is actually 4 different die plates that deboss a sentiment into your card. So the 4 sentiments are love you, miss you, handmade, just for you. This would be great for things like maybe little tags that you just want to add a little something to them. And it doesn't have an outside cutting edge, so you can cut that into whatever shape card you'd like. And it works, I think, really well on a specialty card that has a little something that's a little bit reflective. So mirror foil card is really great because where it's cut in, you get a shadow, and then the shine of the foil really helps to pick up the highlights, and I think that helps to really bring a lot of contrast to that debossing. Now here's a close-up look at what I said might just be my favorite, only because it's really part of my signature. That's something that I designed to be a part of the watermark that I use to watermark all of my projects. So that die is this right here. And again, this does not have an outside cutting edge. So all this will do is just cut that lovely detail into your card. And it's just a really lovely, it's all about the little details with me, and I love having these little accents. So I think that that's something that's just a little bit different, a little bit unusual, and hopefully unique. I don't know that I've seen that before, so so that's why I definitely wanted to make it a part of this set. And here's the outline or the shadow for the word thanks. The 2 hearts that come in this set, if you happen to have caught the first look at Easy Wonder die number 1, there were a lot of hearts in that set too, but those tended to be on the smaller side, so they were a little too small to include that stitch border detailing. But these are very similar in the sense that they are asymmetric, and again, they are a nod to the heart that you see in the not too shabby packaging, and it's just really a part of the brand. It's in a lot of the not too shabby logos and branding, and so this has that very similar asymmetric hand-drawn look to it. And in this case, I've added that stitch border detailing. So that's a look at both what the Easy Wonder number 2 cuts out and what the add-on cuts out. Now, just for reference, if you are ever curious, if you flip to the back of the add-on set, what you'll find is an outline of the Easy Wonder die that it coordinates with, and highlighted in yellow are the pieces that you have mats, and in some cases layers, that you can use in combination. So not all of the pieces that you have with the Easy Wonder die add-on will have a coordinating piece from the original Easy Wonder die. That's just because there are only so many, there's only so much metal we can include, and some things I feel make a little bit more sense to include than others. And so where it makes sense and where it's going to get more use, I've tried to make sure to include it. So that is a look at the add-on. Now let me show you how it was designed to be used. So, and then I'll show you some cards so you can see for yourself how those are used. So we do have the oval here, and this oval comes out of your Easy Wonder die. So you can drop that and have a lovely border all the way around if you use the larger of the 2 ovals. And then if you take the smaller of the 2 ovals, then you can actually just put that on top for another layer. So if you'd like to have a lot of mats, a lot of layers, then that's one look that you can have. Then for this wedge shape, the Easy Wonder die cuts out 2 of these. They're like that. But they are identical. They're exactly the same size and shape. And so the one die will actually cut the matte layer for both. So you can use one die and get just die cut it twice, and then you'll have mats for both of them. Now, I opted not to make a smaller wedge to go on top of your Easy Wonder die cut because it's going to be rather small. So I figure that's not a piece that you're likely to need very often because it is going to be so small. It's just going to be like a little slice of something. If I wanted to keep that exact same kind of border all the way around and have it nice and consistent, like what you see on the ovals. So that's why I opted to not have that. And that way we could bring you maybe some of these other elements that I think will get used more often. So, so those are the elements that have matte layers behind them. Then what you'll find is these shapes here are the bubble layers for your letters in the word thanks that drops out of this rectangle piece here. So you've got your bubble layers there, and that way you can use these letters individually. And if you are attaching it onto, say, a busy background, sometimes having that extra little border all the way around will help it to stand out a little bit better against a busy background. Okay, so we've got all of that, and then with this rectangle piece that has the oval, what you can do is you can use the largest oval to put behind it and have a different color come through if you want, or you can actually take this oval and layer it on top and get a different look that way. So a couple different ways that you can use that. And then what I wanted to show, and I will teach this in depth in the advanced class, but I just have, in fact, in the advanced class, I actually make this sample card. So here's how you can use, because I think from the Easy Wonder die number 2, probably the most different looking piece might be this one here. The rectangle that has the word thanks cut into it. So there are a lot of different ways that you can work with that and a lot of different looks that you can achieve by combining different colors and either inlaying them or dropping them behind so that you can read it. There are a couple different methods of the eclipse technique where you take what drops out and you just put it right back where it came from. And as well, if you have the add-on, then you can get a couple of different looks by using that little bit of an outline. So here you can see I've outlined it and you can use the letters in the positive. Here I've outlined each letter, but I've actually combined that with the eclipse technique so that it's actually more legible. So I'll show you how to get all of those looks in the advanced class of the Easy Wonder die. So when you pre-order this, you're going to have several different options. You're going to have the option to pick up the Easy Wonder die by itself, the Easy Wonder die with the add-on, and then you can choose whether or not you want any of the classes that I have filmed to give you an idea for how to use these dies. So let me show you the cards that that are a part of those classes. In the intro class, I actually show you how to use the Easy Wonder die with some of the mats and layers that you can get from the add-on to actually create the 4 cards that you see here. So I more or less follow the same sketch layout, but I've just added kind of some additional mats and layers. I've added some accent pieces from the add-on. I cheated a little bit and took some of the hearts from the Easy Wonder die number 1 add-on because I just wanted some more sizes, but that gives you an idea for how you can use the Easy Wonder die and the add-on to create the 4 suggested sketches. Great way to kind of springboard your creativity, get started with your crafting, but before too long, once you have these dies in hand, I'm sure you're going to come up with a lot of different looks and a lot of different sketches. So then I've got a set of cards where we're going to break free from all of those sketches. And here I've created a 5x7 card where I've combined that wedge shape, and I've just kind of multiplied it. And instead of just using 2 pieces, I've used 4 and then spread them across this larger card. There's the largest oval from the add-on to give me a little bit of an anchor for collaging up this scene in the center here. So again, these are from the advanced class. So in the advanced class, I show you all of the techniques for working with this particular die, but I also show you these 4 cards. So here's how I've used that little border just to add that little touch of something, which I think is like a really nice little subtle touch. And I used the papers from one of Not Too Shabby. Actually, both of these are from the Paper Pad Club for June. So if you're liking these papers, that's where you can get them. And then similar to the first Easy Wonder die, which had a square and a circle, this time we have a rectangle and an oval. You can definitely, if you see an aperture, you can definitely turn that into a shaker. So that's what I've done here. And I've just made a shaker. Now you could, if you wanted, you could also use the very same technique that I use here and turn this piece into a little shaker as well. I think that would be a fun way to use that die, which I didn't show actually, but I'll definitely do it at some point on my channel. And then here's the 4th card where I've used the debossing plate. And as well, again, I kind of snagged some elements from the first Easy Wonder add-on that had that double fishtail banner. I used that to die cut just this little strip of gold mirror card, and then I used the debossing plate to deboss the sentiment, and the word hugs is also from the first add-on set. So if you have this whole system and you're kind of collecting all of the Easy Wonders and their add-ons, it just helps to kind of extend all of your pieces, because now you have even more building blocks to craft with, and you can easily start to see how they can be used in combination with each other to create even more different looks. So I'll have a video on my channel soon where I show you how to do just that, where I've combined both die cut elements from the Easy Wonder die number 1 and number 2 to create a set of holiday cards. So this will be a separate video on my channel coming up. And you'll see some elements I've taken from the add-ons, some elements I've taken from the original Easy Wonder dies, and the possibilities really are endless. So what I've done is I've collected, and I'll continue to collect, Easy Wonder die inspiration videos in the playlist that I'll link to at the end of this video. So that way, if you're looking for a one-stop shop for a lot of different tutorials and cards and other projects, maybe not even just cards, I try to collect the ones that I find on YouTube from other crafters, so it's not just me and my ideas, because that's one of the things that I really love about putting out die sets like these, is that the possibilities are endless, and so it's really up to each person's creativity what they do with all of these basic building blocks. And I'm always astounded when I see another crafty friend of mine craft with my die and create something I would never have thought of, and use the dies in ways that I, could not have imagined. So as I find those videos, I've invited some of my friends to just contribute directly to that playlist, and as I find more videos, I'll continue to add them there so that you have inspiration not just from me, but from other designers, other crafters who have used these dies. So thanks so much for checking out this video. Just to recap, the Easy Wonder die number 2 and its add-on will go up for pre-order on the Not Too Shabby Shop website. I'll leave links to everything in the description box below. You will have various different options when you go to pre-order. You can get just the die, Easy Wonder die by itself. You can get it with the add-on, and as well there are 2 classes that you can add. The introduction class, where I show you how to make the 4 card sketch suggestions that are shown on the back of your Easy Wonder die packaging, and the advanced class, where I show you various different techniques for working with this die cut, which I kind of feel might be the most different looking one. So that's why I wanted to spend a little bit of extra time showing these different ways and different looks that you can get. And as well, I have the intro class and the advanced class, where I show you in the advanced class how to craft with the add-on and the Easy Wonder die to make cards that are very different from the original sketches. So I hope that you'll check those out, and definitely give me your feedback. Let me know what you think. And if you are struggling to die cut your Easy Wonder die, or you just want to have some tips and tricks if you've never tried it before, I'll show you some tips and tricks so that you can out of the gates find success with die cutting your Easy Wonder die. Okay, so probably the biggest feedback that Jamie and I have gotten about the Easy Wonder die that wasn't positive is how to cut this big die successfully every time. Now, when the die gets designed, Jamie and I test it quite a lot, and I've never had an issue with die cutting, but that's largely because I have the Gemini electric die cutting machine, and I have the big one at that. So the reason why I say it's never been an issue is because, for one, the Gemini machine just has a lot of pressure, and so when it cuts pretty much through anything. In fact, I actually use a sort of my own little plate combination to reduce the pressure so that it doesn't, bend my dies and warp the paper and whatnot. Also, if you have a large platform machine, whether it is an electric machine or not, one of the things that you can do to really, really help a die cut successfully is just put it at an angle like that. And the reason for that is because when you feed this through your die cutting machine, the rollers in the machine, let's say the roller is, one of the rollers on the machine. The rollers help you to kind of roll this, kind of feed the plate combination through. And what happens is, if you feed your plate in like that, you get what you've probably heard about, which is that speed bump effect. Because that line, that cut line there, it's raised. It's thicker metal than the other inside areas of the metal here. And so that's going to get more pressure. And just like a car rolling over a speed bump, when these rollers go over that straight cut line, you're going to get like a bump. And so you'll hear that and you'll feel it if you're manually cutting. There'll be a little bit of a thunk. But what happens, though, more importantly, is that when your roller is completely over top, what happens is that the most pressure your machine is going to apply to your die is where these rollers are. So everything under the roller is getting the pressure that the machine is capable of exerting. Now, when the roller is over a long straight cut line like that, all of that pressure is distributed along that entire length. So in the case of this die, that's 5 7/8 of an inch that has distributed pressure from the roller. Now, what happens when we introduce this at an angle and we feed it through more like that? So instead of the roller, as it passes over this, instead of it passing over and having all of that pressure get spread out across this long stretch, all of that pressure is now concentrated in these smaller segments of the cut lines. And so that pressure is more focused on just those little areas, which means that it's going to be more successful and cut through all the way. So I just by habit, I always pass my dies through at an angle, and I don't even think about it anymore, which is why it just never occurred to me that that's like a tip to pass on. So that's one of my suggestions, is to always kind of, especially if you have a large platform machine like this one, you kind of have the space to do it because you can introduce a pretty severe angle, and the more severe of an angle, the shorter the cut line, you'll be able to get to pass through. Tip number 2. Jamie passed this on to me because, again, now that I use my Gemini machine, I don't cut into a magic mat anymore. But Jamie has found that the magic mat is just a little bit too squishy. And so tip number 2 is to actually die cut into a hard plastic cutting plate. Whatever cutting plate came with your machine originally, use that to cut into. The reason is because the magic mat, when the rollers, exert pressure over top of this cutting plate, what happens is that it's just gonna push this down, and with enough force, it's gonna push it down and then cut through your paper that's underneath of it. However, if what's underneath the paper has a lot of give and is squishy, then it's actually just gonna push that squishy mat, or that magic mat, it's just gonna indent into the magic mat, as opposed to if you have something hard, that hard surface is gonna have some resistance. It's not gonna give into the pressure as the pressure is getting applied down onto it. And so as a result, because the hard plastic isn't gonna give any, that die has nowhere to go but clean through your paper. Whereas if you cut into something that's a little bit softer, like your magic mat, instead of cutting and then this holding firm, this kind of just caves in. And so your paper doesn't actually cut through, it just gets pushed into your magic mat. So tip number 2 is to swap your magic mat out and use a hard cutting surface. Now, I don't often use a 6-inch machine, but I know that for a lot of people, that's what they have. And so I did bring out my Bureaucraft machine here because it is a 6-inch, has a 6-inch opening. So for folks who have 6-inch die cutting machines, this die will work through your 6-inch machine. Now, one thing to be aware of is anything that has like little paper still stuck in there, definitely be sure to weed all of that out, poke all of those through so that you don't have any of those left. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is demonstrate this on my Bureaucraft machine because that's my 6-inch platform. Couple things that you can do that I've already mentioned, but let me mention a couple more. So since the name of the game is having the right amount of pressure, you could, if you needed, you could always add a cardstock shim to your plate combination. That's definitely going to help you to increase the pressure. And I don't think I'll need that on my Bureaucraft, so I'm gonna leave that off, and we'll see how it does without that. But that's an option. And I've got my pattern paper here. I'll just tape this. I'm gonna wrap the tape all the way around to the back, really make sure it's nice and secure. And just like I mentioned, you want to put this at a little bit of an angle. So I'll put it this way just so that you can see, but I'm going to have to flip it the other way because this top plate is the cutting edge. So you want to angle this so that it's still going to fit on your platform between both plates, but it just introduces that slight angle so that we don't have that speed bump, and that way we can get the pressure really concentrated on shorter segments of the cut lines. So just something like that. And then I will run this through my Beercraft. Now I'm going to run it through my Beercraft on the Beercraft machine and the Gina K machine. They have this dial where you can increase or decrease the pressure. I'm just going to leave it at 0 just to see how this does without anything extra other than the angle. But the one thing I will do that's a little bit extra is I will pass this through one way. So I'm gonna roll this through in one direction. I'm not gonna take it out, but I will make sure that it actually goes through all the way so I can feel it. And then I will reverse it back out. So basically this will cut twice. We'll have 2 passes through the machine. And since we haven't moved anything, nothing's going to shift on us. And so the die, it's taped down pretty well anyways. So it should cut through okay. But there you can see, well, that part has the tape. So let's get the tape removed and we'll see how this did. So, oh, this has a little bit of tape here. Okay. This has a little tape there. So there's a little bit here of this banner that didn't cut all the way through, right on the edge. Might have been that this was just hanging a little too close to the edge, so it wasn't completely under my top plate. So that part technically didn't cut all the way through. But if this was hanging off the edge even just a little bit, then it's not too surprising that didn't make it through. So let's see. I need my pokey tool to poke all of these pieces out. So there. So this was just running it through. I didn't add a cardstock shim at all. But I did run it through twice. Just forwards and back. And look, pretty much. Nope, there's one more piece. Pretty much everything cut through. Looks like this is the only thing that didn't cut through. And if you look at the die, that's almost like kind of dead center. So it's quite possible that's sort of the weakest part of the rollers. And so no problem. I will just kind of set this back in, make sure it really locks in place so that we don't like trim off more than we want. But that feels like it's pretty well locked in. If you're worried about it budging, you can just put a little bit of tape, secure that down, and then I'll pass this through another time. So, and if it helps, like I said, if you have the Beercraft machine, you can always increase the pressure a little bit, and that might avoid this little bit having to go through a second, or I guess technically a third time. So you could do that. Maybe if I had used that cardstock shim that I showed earlier, maybe it would have cut through completely with that. It probably would have, because that would increase the pressure. But now that there's less paper to contend with, just feeding it through without any extra shims or anything, but I still had it go through at an angle, and sometimes that helps too. If you pass it through the one time, I'm gonna exaggerate the angle. If you pass it through like this the first time, and maybe it didn't catch, this section, or some section didn't cut all the way through, the next time maybe try to tilt it the opposite way. And then that way it's coming at it at a different direction and exerting different pressure, so that it might have a better shot at cutting through without having to go through an extra time. So If you want to see, I'll do it again just so that you can show what this would have happened, or what would have happened if we just had this go through once with maybe a cardstock shim. So let's see. These, by the way, are from the Rustic Christmas paper pad, which is just gorgeous. So let's get this tape down as well. And this time I am going to use a cardstock shim. I would normally on the Beercraft, I wouldn't use a cardstock shim. I would actually use the dial, but I know not everybody has a machine that actually lets you adjust pressure that way. So I want to give you tips that everybody can use, not just folks who have like a very specific machine and its specific features. So here's just a bit of cardstock. It's pretty thick. I think that's 120 pound. You might have to experiment to see what works for you. If it's too much pressure, it might not go through your machine. If it's not enough, you might have to still roll it through twice. But let's see how this fares. So again, I've got a little bit of an angle. So the only thing that I've changed is that just shifted on me. The only thing I've changed is I've added a cardstock shim to this, but I'm still putting my die, positioning my die so that it's got a little bit of an angle introduced. And then I'm going to roll this through. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to roll it through forwards once, and then I'm going to backwards roll it once this is passed through all the way. And essentially, it's going to end up cutting it, or passing it through twice. So there, it's cleared the edge. So now I'm going to roll it back through again. And let's see how this does. The first time did pretty well even without the shim. It cut through pretty much everything but like a maybe 1.5 inch section or so. So okay, that popped out pretty quickly. I've got the tape, a little bit of tape here, a little bit of tape here. Okay, so this came cleanly off. And let's see. It's really the inside because everything cut the first time too, except for where the big square and the little square met up. That's where we had, oh look, so see, that came through. So this already is better than that first pass. And that's just with extra cardstock shim. And I must have done a better job lining this up because even the banners like cut all the way through. Because I did have to snip a little bit on that first one where I don't think I had it quite covered all the way. But there you have it, all the pieces cut out. So if you want a little bit of extra insurance, maybe add the cardstock shim. But you can try it without first. I would definitely recommend, because the more thickness, especially if you're using a manual machine, the harder it's going to be on you. Like the more muscle you kind of have to put in to roll it through completely. But you can see with just the addition of a single sheet of cardstock, and you might need that just based off of what you're cutting initially, because if you use maybe thinner paper than the not too shabby cardstock, you might need an extra cardstock shim just to have enough thickness. Not too shabby pattern paper is a pretty nice weight cardstock, and so that's why this cut through almost 100% just the first time without anything more than just, putting this at a little bit of an angle and rolling it through twice. I think rolling it through twice definitely helps. So hopefully those tips help you to cut your Easy Wonder dies a little bit more successfully. And I know that the few people who have had negative things to say, it was really about, how can they get this to cut more consistently? And when Jamie has shared with them those tips, it has resolved their issues. So I want to make sure that I'm passing those tips from Jamie along to you as well, because I don't generally use my Barocraft machine. I use my Gemini machine, and I've just never had any issues with it. But that might not be a fair test, just because not everybody has an electric machine that has the pressure of a Gemini. All right, so I hope this has been helpful, and if you have other tips and tricks that you would like to share, please do leave them in the comments below. Thanks so much, and until next time, happy crafting and have a fabulous day.